sort of an informed guess is that it is mainly used in academic discourse and not in policy discourses. So that is probably one part of the meaning of justice in Sweden. So and more, you mean more concretely in the academic discourses? Again, we have just started with this, but it seems to be used by researchers who are driven by a pathos for trying to, make things better for people in general. So that is a sort of impressions at this stage, since we have just started with the national context, actually. I'm a bit afraid to answer yet, since we have just started. But I think the position of these researchers who do it is normative in the sense that they have a pathos for changing, for contributing to change, to make it better for people. How they use it is probably varies, but I mean, is it used to construct descriptive theory on the topic, or normative theory on the topic? So that's but this is in the academic sense, in academic circles. In policy circles, I don't think it's used. Not as an active, not as a tool, not as a conceptual tool to drive policy or so. Well, as a researcher, I work from the understandings of the people that I interview and so on. So to me, it becomes what it means to them, basically. And in the case study that have just been finished on Stockholm, the informants talk about social sustainability, which is the policy concept they use. And if you look to the conceptual grounding of social sustainability that they use, it has some reference to justice. But for ideological reasons, it's a sensitive word in the Stockholm context to use spatial justice, or to use justice, since it's loaded politically, ideologically, by some parties with certain content that other parties wouldn't subscribe to. Now I proceeded from the action, which was an action trying to find ways to make the city more socially sustainable. And then I asked them also to relate to spatial justice and discuss that. And then these topics came up that we can't use it, but to me that would mean this and that and so on. So that's how I've been using the concept, and that's my sort of my personal understanding as a researcher of the concept stems from Ali's report, and that's how I've used it in the case study. Well, in the Stockholm case, it's obvious that it's too ideologically infected to be used policy-wise, and my guess is also that if research is using it, decision makers will see the headlines of the reports and the titles, and if it contained that word, they would think they already know what's in the report, and it would not be as impactful as it maybe should be. So it's a hindrance in that respect. Yeah. That people think they already know what's it about. Well, starting with the strength maybe it is that spatial justice sort of connects both distributive aspects and procedural aspects, and try to grasp those things together. So that is a strength. I think it has clear ideological connections, and that is probably not only in the practical sense, but also in the conceptual sense, could be limiting, as then you build in a conflict between, for example, the role of opportunity to the role of material distribution. I think the concept has that inherent conflict in it. What is justice? Is it that everyone should have equal opportunity, or is it that everyone should have equal material prerequisites? And that's based on, well, liberalism versus socialism or social democracy. And my guess is it's very difficult to get around that, actually. On an everyday level of language use, I don't think that aspect gets through when discussing with people, or in interviewing them or so. And it's also in the dictionaries. They use one word to explain the other, so there can't be very large differences in the language-wise. Then they could be loaded, of course, by other researchers to get to certain meanings. I think it's difficult to theorize. It's one part of the academic discussions. Could probably be very helpful. But in any practical sense, that is most likely a disturbance for example, when translating it into policy measures or so. If it's if those words are too similar in their original understanding, what level of understanding would you need to understand that limit, for example, as a policymaker in a city district? So even though it can be loaded in different ways, that is part of the academic debate, I'd say. Could eventually, in the long run, mean something to the conceptual development, but right now I think it's a bit early, at least trying to use that in any practical sense. It would be to build on place-based learning, any measure you want to take against it, to have it firmly grounded in local circumstances. So the case study was a type of learning exercise, one can say, to get suggestions for change that would be, in one sense, be feasible and realistic, and for that you need expert knowledge from the different administrations in the city. But it's also important to have them localized even further, not only on the city level, but in various districts. What is important to people? That is the main message. So if you're going to do something, make sure you have done the analysis before.